whistling right past my ears. That's when it really counted, a British photographer told me, but it was very close. We all ducked, and they took me out away from the gunfire. As I wrote in an email later, I at first thought this was a coincidence. It had nothing to do with me. But then as I thought about it further, I think this was a very naive assumption. As I'd been going around that area, I could see Israeli guard towers overlooking it. And I have no doubt that those Israeli soldiers saw that the foreigner was walking around. And they finally decided to send her a message. Don't come here. Don't visit Palestine. Don't see what we are doing. This would have fit their pattern. Although American media rarely tell us this, journalists are often injured by Israeli forces, sometimes killed. Mostly they're Palestinians. Maybe our media don't think they count. But some have been foreign: British, German, Italian, American. One was a 26-year-old correspondent for AP. She was shot in the abdomen. It destroyed her spleen and her uterus. When I first heard about that, I was skeptical. I had never heard about that. Well, I looked into it. It turned out to be quite true. In fact, I eventually saw that the Israeli soldier was finally court-martialed. She was an American. Now he has another job, and she has an abdomen missing a spleen and a uterus. If that had been done against an American journalist by Palestinians, it would have been headlines. Why didn't we even read about it? In Gaza, I saw beautiful agricultural lands being destroyed. I talked to farmers who had farmed those lands forever. I saw ancient olive groves that had been uprooted. I saw a stand of 100-year-old date palms that had been flattened. I talked to farmers whose fathers had farmed the land, whose grandfathers had farmed that land, whose great-great-grandfathers had farmed that land. They knew every tree. They had been farming that land for generations, some 19 generations or more. And now they were destroyed. I wondered what would happen to them. How does a farmer feed his children when his crops and his trees are gone? And this is what I saw in Al-Mawasi along the beautiful blue Mediterranean Sea. And in Rafah, and in Khan Yunis, and in Gaza, I saw a people and a land being destroyed. To me, that's newsworthy. As Americans, I think we're used to seeing images of third world poverty. We're troubled by them, but we think there's so much, what can we do? That's not what I was seeing. I was seeing intentionally created poverty. I talked to women who had had homes, but their homes had been destroyed. They were now living in tin shanties and tents in the dirt. I sat with them, and Palestinians are almost invariably gracious hosts. They gave me sweet mint tea and asked me to tell Americans about them. I told them I would try. And I saw more. I don't like seeing suffering. I don't like seeing children in pain. But if, since thousands of children have been injured through the use of my tax money, then it was my job to see them. All I had to do was go to the nearest hospital, and I saw children with bullets in their backs, in their stomachs, in their teeth, in their legs, in their heads. I saw a brain-dead 12-year-old whose crime had been throwing stones at invading soldiers. I saw children who will never walk again. They won't skip, they won't frolic, their childhoods are finished. I saw parents who were happy to see me. They thought that as an American, maybe I could help their poor son. I asked the doctor if there was care that maybe I could help to arrange. Maybe a doctor could be flown in, or maybe their son could be brought to a hospital here in the US. And he explained to me that he hadn't yet found the right time and the right way to tell the parents, but their son was totally and eternally paralyzed. And so I knew something they didn't know, and I wished I didn't. And now you do too. And this is what I saw in Gaza. And then I went to Ramallah, where I visited the newspaper office with sandbags against the bullets. And when I first got to that office, they said a 9-year-old boy was just shot nearby. Maybe you'd like to go see. And I thought, no, I wouldn't like to go see. But I did, and I took pictures of his blood, going up to where he had been sitting watching his father paint the wall. I saw the wet paint, the trucks, the toy trucks, and the blood on the floor. I saw the wall hanging in the living room that had a bullet hole in it that I'm told says, "Thinking of God makes our hearts grow calm." I saw the needlepoint over the front door that I could read that said, "God bless our home." The family had moved in 10 days before. I saw the flowers in the living room, the family photos on the wall, and I saw the parents when they returned from the hospital. I heard the mother and sisters weeping and weeping. I saw the father walking around shell-shocked. It looked like he was sleepwalking in a bad dream that will never end. I saw the neighbors come in to try to comfort them. I heard a man tell the father when it looked like he was about to break down, "Your son is a bird in heaven now." The next day I went to the funeral, and the next day another funeral. There are so many. This one was for a woman who had 3 sons, 18, 14, and 12. As I was interviewing people, at one point I found myself walking next to a woman who it turned out was the dead woman's neighbor. This woman told me about her friend. This woman had gone to college in the U.S. She said that just a few days before, her friend had been asking her what it was like to go to college in the United States. She said that her 18-year-old son wanted to go to college in the United States. This woman explained to me it's every boy's dream in Palestine to go to college in the U.S. But she said, of course he won't go now. He'll stay home to help with his brothers. And this is what I saw in Ramallah. And then I visited Bethlehem, where I saw an infant. I saw a hospitalized baby whose mother had not been allowed out of Gaza for months to hold her sick baby. And I saw other destroyed homes and children who had been in those homes and had been killed. And I remembered walking in Rafah in southern Gaza and seeing bullet-riddled homes there, and talking with people who asked me why America was doing this to them. I found it difficult to answer their questions because I was so tired of telling people, because Americans don't know what we're doing to you. Our media don't tell us. The only time that I saw guns that were to be used for other than signaling grief or bravado in a funeral was in another part of Rafah by a sandbag barricade. I saw Israeli armored vehicles and tanks starting to move in. And then I saw a crowd of boys and men starting to gather to throw stones at those Israeli forces. Then I noticed that 3 of those young men had guns. They asked me not to take their picture, so I didn't. And as you've probably noticed, I didn't take pictures on that trip of Israeli soldiers and armored vehicles, etc. I didn't feel safe to do that, so I can't show those to you either. But I wish I could show you the pictures of the Israeli forces and show you a picture of the Palestinian gunmen, as our media call them. And then you could decide about these gunmen, how dangerous they were or desperate, how foolish they were or courageous, how suicidal